What is going on, you guys? Okay, this is my third episode with Unfinished Lifestyle. I'm your main host, Coach YoYo, and we have my co-host, Coach Nick, today. Thank you for joining.
Thanks for having me.
And of course, we have our main celebrity here in Salt Lake City, Utah. His name is Ryan. How do you say your last name? Rostenberg. And I've been training you for the last, almost 2 years now. I've known you way before that. But today, we're going to talk about his...
Where'd you guys meet, or how did you meet?
Yeah, actually.
I think I was referred to you.
It was.
When I started talking to...
By other Ryan.
No, actually.
Oh, no?
No, Zara.
Oh, that's right.
So she referred me when I was talking about the gym, and I wasn't really feeling good about going to the gym. And she said, go see a coach. And I think you were coaching her at the time.
And that was 2019, actually.
Yeah,
that was a long
BC,
time ago.
before COVID.
That's right. Yeah, BC. That was a good one.
Bro, did you just BC?
Yeah, I did. That was great. And so Ryan and I have been working together, and he's the only client that I have that are coming in twice a week, right? We do upper body one day, and then we always do legs on Thursdays. Always. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. But also I have Colton. He's my Guillermo of my late night show type of guy.
They refer to me as the producer/seducer.
Yeah, that one.
I don't know a single person that refers to you like that, but that's what you need to hear. That's what you need to tell yourself.
I was going to say your wife, but then I was going to hold it back.
I'm going to call her right now.
But Ryan's incredible story, and the reason why I want him to be one of our very, very first couple episodes here, because your story is so inspiring, and I've learned a lot about you in the last couple of years, about your condition. You have a CMT condition, which we're going to talk about that in a second, and you are 10 years sober now?
Correct.
And the reason why I have Nick here with me too is he's been with me for a very long time. So he knows you for a very, very long time, right? So let's talk about that. Let's talk about your journey with why you got started and why you chose us as a coach, and what made you make that change.
As far as why I started with you guys, I was referred to you guys, and of course I was hesitant. I went in and I felt comfortable when I went into your office the first time. I think we were at Iron Ground, and and when I started working out, I started feeling more confident just being in the gym, eating right. Like eating for me, it was wake up and go all day and then eat dinner. That's just I just didn't make time for it, and when you eat good. Personally, I start feeling better. I start waking up with more energy. And you guys, I didn't really believe that, but then I started to feel it, and I started feeling more confident about who I was. And I'm starting to look better, You
look better, you feel like it. It's a good start.
I don't remember where I heard this, but there's like a little saying that I heard somewhere that's like, when you eat good, you look good. When you look good, you feel good. And when you feel good, you do good.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I love that we've been working together for 2 years, and you come in twice a week. And the reason why I have you on here is because I use you as an example a lot. A lot of my clients are like telling me that I can't do this, you can't do that, I don't have time to do this or whatever. And I'm like, look, bro, have you met Ryan? Have you seen him? That's why I post about you a lot, because it's inspiring to a lot of people. You're in the gym with the condition that you have, which we're going to talk about that in a second, with the condition that you have, and you still manage to look at life such a different, outlook, different perspective. And you're in a sober community as well, and you do a lot of. So what do you do like every Thursday or every Wednesday?
We part of the entertainment community to throw events so people can have a good time sober.
Yeah,
we do that Thursday, and that's been a big part of the last 10 years is being on that committee. But it's funny you talk about that people say they can't do that stuff, and. Yeah. And I'll be honest, hearing that my whole life in school, he can't do that, he can't do that, can't do that, can't do that. It was almost like my attitude was like, I can't do that, I'm not even going to try. And somewhere along the lines,
More so because that's what you were told.
Yeah.
Right? You didn't really get to figure it out for yourself. You were just told.
Yeah.
And so, when I hear the word can't, my mind's like, no, I can. It just might take a little longer. I can go hiking. I might not make it to the top when you guys do. Yep. But all those things, some things may take me longer, and some things I may get it done quicker. It just depends on what it is. But hearing that triggers some kind of thing in my brain, like, I'll show you. You know what I mean?
I've never understood that. Like, I understand if you have a certain condition, medical condition, there probably are things you can't do. But for someone else to make that decision for you, and then at such a young age, they ingrain that in your brain, that, hey, Ryan, you can't do that. Oh, okay. And then you go your whole life thinking you can't do something. I don't understand why. Like, why can't they change the narrative to, you know what, buddy, let's try. Let's see what happens.
The other side of that coin too is like the people that are saying that are projecting their fears, maybe your parents or something, where they're just like, they don't want you to get hurt or injured or whatever.
Yeah.
So they project their fear onto you. But when you become an adult and you become a little more like self-aware, you're like, wait, that's you, not me.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people, it's unfortunate, like Yo and I have talked about this too, where people think they're helping. Like they think they're being supportive by telling you that your coach is a waste of money and you can spend that on something else. Like they really do think, like, people aren't villains. They don't know they're doing wrong, you know?
But at the same time, they're also adults too, right? So I mean, you know what you're doing at the same time. It's like I stop
accountability.
You got to stop apologizing. You got to stop being nice sometimes. Too nice. A lot of people are too nice. I'm like, oh no, it's okay. I know what you said. You know, you apologize. No, you're an adult. You said what you said. You meant what you said.
Yep.
And you know, it is what it is, and that's their character, right? But you managed through that. And when so let's talk about childhood, right? Your start from the beginning of Ryan's life. And you told me about a story that you couldn't play baseball anymore.
Yeah, so when I was growing up, I mean, younger age, I mean, I started with machine pitch. You know, my dad would show up to every game. It was T-ball.
Yeah.
2 years T-ball, 2 years machine pitch, and then it was baseball for 2 years. And honestly, you know, I absolutely loved it. I loved to hit the ball. I loved the run of the bases. You know, this is a progressive disease. So, I mean, obviously I think it's progressed pretty much as far as it can go until I can't move anymore. But when I was about that age, and I can't remember the right age, probably about junior high, you know, I remember trying out for the team and I couldn't really run as fast as I used to run. And that's when baseball just kind of, I went the other way, you know, because I couldn't make the team. I could have played it different. Like, I mean, honestly, I could have been like help the team out or been part of, but instead.
Was this before
like a
or
team
after
manager?
you were diagnosed?
So I was diagnosed when I was like 4 or 5. So everything was really after. Okay. And I always felt different. I was always the slowest runner, but at least I could run. So I always felt different. And so when I couldn't make the team, that's kind of when
How old were you at that point?
Junior high, just getting into
So
junior
you
high.
wanted to go to
12, 13.
yeah.
12, 13.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's when I wanted to play baseball with the high school or junior high and go from there. And that's when everything kind of went left, when I should have gone right. You know, I started trying to figure out who I was and identifying with what I should do. And I started getting into drugs. I started going to parties. And that's where it really hit for me. You know, my mom she was around not very much, doing the best she could. I don't blame her for anything, but, you know, I'd always be throwing parties at my house because people would come over and I would feel liked, and I needed that feeling, you know, that we all look for, that validation.
Yep.
And, you know, drugs were coming over, and I remember taking my first drug hit, and from there it was pretty much over. You know, when I was 15, 16 years old, and I took the first crack hit in my bathroom. And, you know, from there it just went.
It went south from there.
Yes.
So that stemmed from you couldn't play for the team that you wanted to play, obviously the sports that you wanted to play. And did you feel some kind of emotional at that point, in that moment, when they said, hey, you can't make the team? Like, how did you really feel?
I mean, I was hurt. I felt like my life was pretty much, what's the point? You know, I felt like everything that I loved, my passion, was just pretty much stripped from me. You know, I loved that, and it was just gone. And to numb that feeling, I finally found that solution, and that was drugs, unfortunately, you know.
And how long were you on drugs from that point?
15 years, 16 years. There was a year break that I was on drug court from the age of 20 to 21 and a half or so, where I stopped using some drugs. I still drank, but on occasion, but for the most part, it was a 15-year run.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a long time, man. That is crazy. So, and did you wear braces since you were younger?
So my first set of braces, obviously they've come a long way. But my first set had these big metal brackets down the side. And so I got them, I remember in junior high, there was this girl that came up to me, and I was getting in the vending machine, and she was cute. I mean, you know, she's probably one of the hottest girls in school, and she's like, man, you got some really skinny legs. And I stopped wearing shorts that day, and these braces, these big metal things would pop out the side. So I got the braces. My parents probably paid a lot of money for them.
Yeah.
And I threw them in my closet because I wasn't comfortable with what I needed, because I felt I was being judged for who I was.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Yeah.
And on top of, you couldn't make the team, on top of people telling you to judge you for the way you look and what you wear. And that's rough, bro. Like, yeah, I'm trying not to be emotional right now. That's a lot to take in as a 15, 16-year-old at that time. You know what I mean? Let alone that you couldn't do what you really want to do. You couldn't really ride a bike, right? You told me about.
I mean, I used to ride a bike every day to school and back, and then it slowly just got worse and worse.
Yeah,
so.
That's crazy, dude. So let's talk about your condition really quick. So what is that, and how likely that people can have that and things like that? So you can educate people.
I'm not no expert on it. I try not to be, but there are so many different forms. It's called CMT. It stands for Charcot-Marie tooth disease. Has nothing to do with your teeth, just so you know. That is named after the 3 people that discovered it. And it's a neurological condition that affects my motory nerves from my knee down and in my hands. So my hands have weakened strength. And obviously, I can't move my feet, my toes.
Yeah.
So you said neurological, so it's got something to do with the way your brain connects to your spine to send signals to those parts? Is that kind of how that works?
As far as I'm aware.
Okay.
That's probably the more technical aspect, but like I just kind of ignore all that, I just, the less I know, I don't think about it, but it definitely affects the motory nerves more than the sensory nerves for me. But there's like CMT 1A, B, C, D, E, CMT 2, 1, 2, you know what I mean? And there's just a lot of different forms. And it's actually more common than people think. From what I'm told, it's 1 in 2,500.
Wow.
But some people don't start getting affected by it until later in life. So it may not affect them until they're 30 or 40. And then some people are affected at a young age. But there's a lot of people that have it. It's just they don't really know yet. That's just what I've researched. So
Wow.
That's amazing, man. I mean,
is it something in your family, though? Like, do any of your siblings, parents,
so
like cousins?
They do say it's genetic. So, I mean, it is supposedly in my family, and nobody that I'm aware of, as far up as I can go.
Or like you said, at least right now, maybe some people in your family do that are younger that will get it when they're older or something. There's like,
It is possible,
Yeah.
but nobody has it that I can find. My son does have it, and my daughter does have it. So
does that impact? I mean, we talked about this before. How hard is that for you, that knowing that you have the 2 kids that you have that also have that? You know what I mean? Like, how does that, dude? I couldn't imagine like the way I would feel. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy. So
yeah, I mean, it's not a good feeling knowing what they have to deal with. What the limitations that we do have in life. Sometimes it's not easy.
yeah,
And as humans, we don't normally like to ask for help either.
yeah.
And I'm pretty stubborn as it is, that. So, but it's definitely one of those things where you can't really change it either.
Yeah, that's crazy. And the thought of that, I have my own, right? But I'm gonna be honest with you, with who you are today, with such a big person in an AA community, and it's just who you are in general. You own your own business now. Congrats on signing the big, I don't want to know if you want to call it contract or business or whatever you want to call it. Congrats on that, by the way. That's a huge, huge accomplishment for Ryan. So do you want to explain what exactly?
Well, so, I mean, I was working with an agency, and obviously I owned my office, and she had her office, and she's ready to retire. And so, she came up to me with the opportunity to buy her out and buy her building. And so I did that, and we'll see what happens from here, but it's
on that.
So what do
it's
you
a
do?
big step.
I think you told me, but I don't remember.
So I'm an insurance agent.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now I own the agency 100%, the building.
Wow.
And
I
it's
saw that silver Toyota Tundra outside. I think
It's nice.
it's
nice.
Company truck.
But the reason why I brought that up is because your upbringing to now and who you are today is a totally different person. You can still be successful. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, this is why I want to have this conversation, because it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. I'm from Malaysia, right? I don't know anything about US. Like, I've adapted to this lifestyle and owning our businesses, and you can grow, you can break that mold just because your family puts you in that.
But again, it kind of goes back to that whole, you can't do this. You can't do that because of, whatever disability that you have. So people take that, use it as a crutch and as an excuse for their entire life as to why they can't do anything. oh, I can't own a business, I can't have a family. You knew the risk having your kids and you still decided to do that. But I think that the difference is, I don't think you're telling your kids you can't do that, and that's it. You're telling them, hey, there might be some challenges.
Yeah,
let me help you with.
Yeah, what are the conversations that you have with your son? Because your son works with you now.
He does.
And in my honest opinion, he's doing a lot better now. Where obviously, I'm comparing to you when you were at that age as well, right? So he's underneath you, working with you. I feel like you're his mentor in a lot of different aspects, and he's not on drugs, right? No, that's awesome. That must be a good feeling.
It is, of course. When he drinks a little bit, I think normal people can do that. But when he first started, of course, I'm like, okay, he's off. He's going down that same rabbit hole, and of course he didn't. And he's really grown. He moved out as soon as he could because he didn't want to live so far away from Salt Lake. And he's grown, and he's got an opportunity working with me, and it's been really good.
Yeah.
To show him we can still succeed no matter what limitations anybody has.
Exactly.
We don't have to. We talk a lot about can't and do this, and sometimes, me personally, as being a human, I remember when people say I can't, it was also more sometimes a manipulation. It was like, oh, I can get out of this now. And I use that a lot with, when I got caught with, the law or whatnot, and I use it as a limitation, as a crutch, and poor me, and to get out of things. So I also would use that for, when I was out there.
Yeah.
And, I haven't had to do that in a long time.
That's really good.
Yeah.
And the fact, and victim mentality, right?
Yeah, why would you not? It's the lowest hanging fruit.
Yes.
Why would you not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not so much like, why did I? Why would you not? That, it's the perfect opportunity.
Exactly.
And to hear your story of the last 2 years. And by the way, he's been talking about this business transaction for over a year, and you finally signed it. What, a day, 2 days ago?
It was
Thursday. You did that Thursday, and that was amazing to feel. We've been talking about it for so long, and you accomplished so much. And I said, dude, we got to celebrate. Right. And then you said also, well, I'm going to celebrate once I've paid everything off too. And I'm like, let's do both celebrations. You know what I mean? Because that's a huge,
Yeah, that's more or less what it is. I'm basically broke now.
Just more debt. You'll be fine.
Just more debt.
Yeah. Congratulations on having no money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, congrats.
The American dream. We should celebrate.
So what does this program, obviously I'm going to send Colton your transformation, your 1 year transformation with me. And you did it with the condition that you have, right? And I tell people this all the time, like, you cannot make any excuses. Like, I don't care who you are, where you come from, and you have a perfect body that can do anything and everything in any given time. But why do I have this one person that are limited physically, but are putting in the work 100% of the time, right? You cannot have that victim mentality. A lot of people have that victim mentality.
Yep.
Even growing up from, oh, my dad is this, my parents are this, my families are big, or so and so. My whole family are diabetics. I'm like, but doesn't mean that you're gonna get it.
Yeah.
I understand sometimes the type 1 could be a genetic thing, but I've known a lot of how many one of our clients are their parents or siblings are all type 1, type 2, or pre-diabetic or pre-obese.
I was just looking at my roster the other day, and I'd say probably 90% of my male clients have low testosterone. They don't know it until they get the blood work done. 65% are borderline type 2 diabetic, and so when they see these things, I start talking to them about it, like, oh yeah, that makes sense because my family's that way. So it's probably just my genetics. Like, I have one client who tells me all the time, I just don't think I can lose the weight because of genetics. And I'm like, no, it's because you're lazy. You're not doing the shit I want you to do. Like,
what's that quote that's like,
I'm gonna call it as it is.
Somebody's like, I've never seen a fat skeleton before.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like, oh, it's genetics. It's like, I've never seen a bag of
like
a fat skeleton
That's a
before.
good one.
Yeah, like,
But
That's a good one.
genetics,
I like that.
genetics
That's
play
pretty
a
funny.
role, right? Like, one of the biggest reasons why I do this is because, like, my mom's side of the family, when I go to the doctors and they family health history, I have to check every damn box because of her side of the family. My dad's side, I only know half of my family's medical history. Because my grandfather, his side of the family, everyone was killed in the Second World War. So I have zero idea what health conditions I'm at risk for. So with that unknown is why I'm doing this, is because I don't want to let the genetics, play a factor. I don't want them to pop up because of the lifestyle I'm living and now I'm dealing with it. Like, genetics it's the gun, but your behavior are the bullets. So as long as you're not loading the genetics, you're fine. But people will use that as an excuse as to why they have these issues, they have these conditions, this, that, and the other. It's like, yeah, sometimes, yes, genetics play a factor, but
With that same analogy, though, you're trying to tell people, they're telling you, like, well, the gun's already loaded. And
Yeah.
you're like, well, you do know
Well,
that you
unload
can
the damn gun.
unload it, right?
yeah, you can remove the bolts. It's not that hard to do, but it's also attention. People do this for the attention. They want people to feel bad for them. They want, like, oh, I feel so bad for you. You have this condition, Ryan. Like, I'm so sorry. It's like, no, stop. No one cares. I'm not trying to be rude, but just I think you're gonna get a lot better, more positive attention if you just embrace what you have and move forward with it and not use it as a crutch, versus you just go on Facebook every day to post about, oh, I'm so sick today, and I have this doctor appointment coming up, and I don't want to talk about it, but just keep me in your thoughts.
Thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, I'm not going to think about you now. The fact you asked me to think about you, I'm not going to do that.
Thoughts and prayers. I mean, that is, I'm going to say like how it is, man. It's a scam because, and I see this on Facebook all the time when people are like, oh, thoughts. And I understand if someone's in the hospital or whatever, I get that.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the people that are trying to victimize themselves, right? And how many times when you hear people talk about, oh, I hate my job. Every day, right? And I said, well, why don't you get a new job? Oh, it's not that easy, bro. I'm like,
But
no, and the analogy that I use, you're not a tree. You can move. You can move.
I can't remember where I heard that analogy as well, but there was somebody that said it to me years and years and years ago. Like, I literally think it was a mentor of mine back in 2014 that I had, and I was like, dude, I just feel so like trapped. And he goes, I'm serious. And he goes, are you a tree? And I was like, no. And he goes, then move. Like
even trees,
like,
right?
Oh man.
But even trees have seasons, right? I mean, they still change. I'm like, why? So the thought.
And then sometimes there's that other analogy that's like planting the seed. Like everyone wants to be a big tree in the springtime, but you just planted the seed, so then they get frustrated that it's not growing fast enough, so then they quit watering it, walk 10 feet to the left and plant another one that also doesn't grow very fast. And so anything also takes patience.
That's crazy. And another thing I want to talk about too, I at one point I had a lot of clients from recoveries, and I still do. I still have a couple of them actually. And the funny thing about having someone from recovery, you guys, all of you, every single one of you, have such a different perspective on life. Every single one of you. And you guys are so positive because you guys been to that lowest of the lows. Most of you are homeless at one point, and you know that, right? So most of you are homeless at that point, and most of them are, been through the bottom to the point where they lived in the streets for so long and transitioned to sober, and now they're all so successful in so many ways. And when you go through the AA and stuff, like, what are the things that you see that people are doing? Well, what kind of massive recoveries that people are doing from became an addict to recovery? What are the most popular things that they do to get to that point?
To get to the point of being,
out of drugs.
It's hard to say.
What's a turning point is my question.
Yeah.
I mean, if I could figure that out, I'd probably be rich because I could just this is your turning point, turn around and go.
Yeah.
But I think for every person, it's different. I think it's a feeling inside. It's not the material stuff that you lose. It's not the family that you lose. It's when you get to that point inside of you that makes you want to do something different. And in the book, in the AA book, it talks about the middle of the road solution. You can either go on blotting out the consciousness the best you can, or accept this program and spiritual help. And I do believe in God. And for me, that's not like I'm going to church on Sunday. But for me, it was at that point, I truly was at that point. I could keep going or accept that help. And my life has completely changed since turning that path.
What was your turning point?
I was living on the street in Arizona for a good solid year. I'd gotten out. And
what city?
In Tucson, Arizona.
Well, must be warm as
hot.
shit over there.
It was hot, and like I said earlier, I stopped wearing shorts because people, you know what I mean. So I was wearing long sleeve shirts for other reasons and pants, and it was like 110 outside. And I'm walking on the streets, and I got nowhere to go. So I'm going to the casino, and I'm just miserable. And I ended up calling my dad, of course, and he came and picked me up after a few times of missing my flight that he bought for me. But
wow,
even when I got up here, I still wasn't quite there yet. But I remember, shortly after being here, I showed up to an AA meeting, and that's where it started for me. But it was that feeling of desperation that I'm done. Like, this is
And how old were you at that point?
I was 30 years old.
30 years old.
30 years old. So I started at 15, 16 years old, and I was 30 years old.
And how this kind of sounds a little, weird, but how tired were you? I mean, there's tired, but I mean, how exhausted were you? Not just living on the streets, going through it, but just, I mean, mentally, physically, emotionally. How exhausted were you from dealing with all of that?
Exhausted.
You ever been in that mode? So I'm 4 years sober from alcohol, and I remember getting so tired that I was so exhausted mentally, emotionally, and physically that my body would ache and I couldn't sleep. Like I remember being so tired that I would lay in bed and stay awake because I was in physical pain from how exhausted I was, and I couldn't sleep. So then I just would stay up all night, and like it would just get worse because I just couldn't sleep.
Yep. Yeah, I was pretty exhausted. Yeah. There's no real describing. I get exhausted today, especially after a leg day. But it's
and him making you walk up the stairs just to get into this room.
Oh my God.
Ass does that.
Come
Bro, I should have thought about that plan.
I know.
I should have bought that plan. But then again, I was like, because I'm going to move this in the basement anyway. Once my basement's finished, and it's going to be a bigger spot because I'll have an office and a podcast room, but I have to do it in here. But I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Ryan's going to have to go up the stairs. I'm like, oh, shit, I forgot about that. But you did it, though.
But, my mentality's kind of changed from because I bought a house clear out in Stansbury because it's like, a couple steps in, all flat.
Yeah.
And, I'm thinking now that I've been doing legs, I'm like, oh, I really wish I had the stairs actually, because then I could actually work on them daily, which is a different mentality.
Yeah.
Where I still don't like it, but I mean, at least I would be working them even more.
Exactly.
Because I do want to get to the point where I can push myself up a little bit easier. And we've come pretty far.
Gotten stronger. So a lot of people may or may not know. So I remember we couldn't do the leg press machine. The heavy machine, we couldn't do that because it's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
And you couldn't even push that. And then we had to reserve.
You're talking with no weight.
Yeah, no weights at all.
Because it's probably like a 60-pound
sled. It's pretty pretty heavy already. So we reserved to the pin selected leg press machine, and that was a lot easier. And I remember we started with 60 pounds, or no, 40 pounds, and we'd hit that for 20 reps at a time. And then the next time we did 60. 80, and now our max was 120 pounds, and then you did like 6 to 8 reps. And
I know did that on that video we recorded. That was that day.
That one, And so that was a huge moment for you because you've never really. I mean, your quad doesn't activate. So talk to people like, how do you actually walk with that brace? Because I know how you walk.
I mean, these braces. I mean, they don't allow me to hyperextend as much as far as hyperextend my leg, which is what I would used to do to get up the stairs, to walk. When I was standing, I was basically locking my knees back, and these ones don't really allow me as much. And the other ones I had would also do that. The problem is that they would break because I am pretty hard on them. So these
you go to Vegas all the time. I know.
Yeah, I got to walk around. You know what I mean? Anyway. I got to find that winning slot by walking the right one.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so we did legs, and then we couldn't do any hammy machines actually, and we couldn't do any extension machines. Yeah. So I had to put them on a box. Yeah. So
I remember you doing that with the dumbbells.
Yeah.
Holding with your feet.
So it was a box.
Yeah. The dumbbells were a few weeks into it.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'll tell you, sitting in the gym. I mean, I'm glad there wasn't a lot of people there because obviously we get in our head. But I remember sitting there and just lifting my legs up with no weight. Yep. And like I was like, this is pretty simple, yo. But then by the time I'm like 40, I'm like, this is a lot of work.
It was, the thought process was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever done. I'm gonna be honest. And so I put him on the stool, and there was a spot in the stool where you can actually extend your legs. And I remember you did that the first couple times. I made you hold a lot. The next couple of weeks we were doing 5 pounds and then 10 pounds. And then I'm like, and then we gradually, I think it took us over 6 months to go to the actual leg extension. And now we max at 30 pounds. And I think you hit 10 reps with the extension. And that was really cool to see.
So I want to ask a question on that then, because like, have you talked to your doctors about what it is you're doing with him and the fact that you've been able to progressive overload in the gym and increase the weights? Because I'm sure they even told you, like, with this condition, the muscle deterioration, you're not going to be able to really do these things. But
probably another you can't conversation.
Yeah, but just looking at it, you're progressive overloading in the gym. You're able to lift heavier despite this neurological condition. So what do they think about it?
So I haven't really there's not much. There's not a cure, so I don't really
Yeah.
go to the doctor. I mean, every once in a while I'll go up to you and see a neurologist, and he kind of just does some random checks, but I haven't
Yeah.
seen him since I started doing this. But I remember growing up, you know, obviously they didn't really know what was going on back then. No one really knew anything, but they're always like, oh, yeah, you got to do exercise. I'm like, well, I feel like I don't know how.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like when I go to the gym, I remember going to high school and junior high, and there's these gyms, and like, oh, it's gym time. I'm like,
So what do I do?
what do I do?
Yeah.
You know, my grip's not good.
Yep.
And I'm sure there's probably those wrist straps that I had back then, but no one's like, hey, get some wrist straps. Let's help you do this. It was more or less no help.
Yeah.
You know, no help at all. And so I got a doctor's note.
Yep.
I can't do it.
But I'm sure these teachers in your gym class don't know a single thing about the gym. They don't know what to do. They don't know form. They don't know exercises. They don't know anything.
I don't want to talk about that.
Oh my God.
That's episode 17.
Yeah,
yeah.
we could be here for
Oh
3
my
weeks
gosh.
talking about this.
Horrible.
But that's the other thing is these doctors say, oh, you just go to, you need to go to the gym and try to get some exercise. Okay, well, what does that look like? Oh, I don't know. Just go.
Well, and I think, you know, it's good that I did start because
Yeah.
when I went, so I got these braces last year and you know, when I went out there, you do have to have some strength.
Yeah.
And he tested my strength. So I think you're still good for him. But there is a next level up brace where you just don't have the strength, where the braces go up here. And I'm like, I don't know if I'd want to do that.
No.
So it's good that I started with Yo and actually got a little bit of strength, you know, in my quads and working on that.
Yep.
Before you got the new brace.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. I remember your old ones. I remember you having those ones. I remember when you got these.
And you said it hurts more on this one because it made you actually work your quad.
So when I'm standing, which it's really nice to be able to just stand without, you know, moving all over. I mean, I still kind of sway because I'm so used to it. For 40 years I've been swaying, but like I can actually just stand still. And the longer I stand, you know, I can start feeling my quads. They do hurt, especially after walking. Like I just got back from Atlanta and we did like 54 holes of golf. So just a few games. And I remember standing in the airport and my legs, they were just throbbing, just like I've been working with you for a few hours, which it's a good thing because that means they're at least getting stronger when I'm not at the gym. Because I feel like when with the old ones, I'd work hard and then I'd do no work through the week.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of continual brace progression, or is this kind of like where you think, I don't want to say like the cap, you know what I mean? But like if you continue to strengthen your legs, like eventually could you, if you're even stronger, like could you look at getting like new braces that are also like less supportive and it's more like, how does that kind of work?
I doubt it because there's no movement down there. There, you know, I can't move my toes. I can't move my feet. There's just no movement. So there's no going any lower and there's not getting that back.
Yeah.
Because of like the calf strength, right?
Yeah.
That's where that would kind of
if
be.
you can't move, there's no way to build that muscle.
Exactly.
So I think these will pretty much be, and I'm hoping these last forever, to be honest. But
I remember you were telling us about them. You were like, dude, these new braces, and they're freaking ultra deluxe turbo PF Chang 9000 turbo whatever.
Edition 2?
Yeah, edition 2. Yeah, I remember you telling us about how stoked you were to get them because your old ones you had for years already.
yeah,
And shout out to that company, by the way. So let's talk about that. So who and where did you get it and how good are they?
So they're made in Vegas, which is a great place for me to go. Which,
That's why he's
you
in
know,
Vegas all the time.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I got to get them tuned up, you know. Actually, they're called Helios.
What are you in Vegas for? Medical reasons.
Yeah, medical. I mean, I love the thought, you know. But Helios makes them. They're 100. They're pretty much carbon fiber, 100%. And insurance companies will only pay for a couple layers of carbon fiber. So I actually had, and I threw them all away after I got these. I had about 3 to 4 pair for the last 8 years. In my closet, and they would last about a year, and I'd snap them, and I could hear them break every time. They just crack,
Really?
but they'd crack underneath the plastic, which there was like 3 layers of carbon fiber. That's all insurance will pay for.
Wow.
So getting those and then saying, okay, I need a new pair, they're not going to give you a new pair till at least 2 years. You know, and so I'm just like, this is getting tiring.
Makes zero sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
That makes no sense.
No, and I did file it to try to get him to prove. I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
if I don't buy another pair for 10 years, you're saving money.
So much money.
And these guys came out with a bracelet that seems really good, and the kickback, the stick. I mean, again, I can talk really highly, but until I hit that year mark, 2 marks, 3 year marks where they're still good, that's when I'm going to be really impressed. But I've been impressed so far.
Yeah, and the company's called what? Again?
I think it's Ortho Rehab Design is the company that actually makes them in Vegas. The brace itself is called Helios.
Gotcha.
And they make pairs that are not quite as strong, and they make these ones are the strongest ones.
I think you go longer too, right?
Yeah, I mean, they have some that go clear up here.
Wow.
I mean, they make other braces too, but these were designed. I think the inspiration when I was talking to the guy, Mitch,
is he the owner of that guy?
Yes.
Of that company that made you?
Correct.
And so you had to fly to Vegas.
Correct.
And they had to imprint your leg, basically, right? So they have to.
Wow.
Yeah, they do all. Dude, it's crazy.
Yeah. So anytime someone goes out there out of town, that you go on Friday, go in on Monday, and you leave on Friday with the brace, which is convenient. But for me in Vegas for a week is not healthy or good for me. But that's okay. We survived.
Medical reasons.
But I mean, they for me, I feel like they've been a game changer, and I really hope that they hold up as long as they do. But I think what inspired the guy is someone without a leg had a carbon fiber leg, and they're running on those big, thick carbon fibers, and someone with CMT asked them, why don't we have a big, thick carbon fiber for us that holds up?
Yeah.
And that inspired them.
That's awesome.
So he doesn't even have a CMT or
No, but he
anyone
does. I think he does wear one brace for another reason.
Okay.
But he does not have CMT himself.
Wow.
So
That's an awesome dude right there. I mean,
for sure.
He's inspiring a lot of people, and you told me someone literally flew in, and anytime that he had something new, a new design, a guy comes in and buy new pairs all the time.
So I was down there and I panicked because this guy somehow brought up that he was buying another pair, and it was only a couple years later. And I was like, wait a minute, how long are these going to last? Because I do not want to come back here and buy another pair. So he's like, oh no, this guy loves the braces so much. He just, every time I get a new design, he comes out and gets one. And I'm like, okay. So
And they're expensive.
yes.
I mean,
Wow.
expensive.
They're pretty expensive.
So, that
Everybody's got hobbies and interests, man. Some people are.
flies in on his jets and helicopters. And like, all right, new pair, bro. What do you got? You know what I mean?
I mean, if you got the money to get a new pair every time, do it. But I mean, I'm hoping that that it's an investment for me, and I hope that I don't have to get another pair in 5 years. I'm hoping they last at least 10.
Yeah. Let me ask you this question, because I'm dying to know, and I don't think I've asked you this before. What was your lowest point in your life during when you were not sober, right? Because I know there's a lot of moments where you're like, shit, dude, this is it. This is where it's gonna go. You know what I mean? What is the lowest point in your life, and where were you, and how did you what was that thought process and feeling? Because I've never been there, right? I mean, we talked about how we have a hard day, and we talked about how we don't have this, whatever, but we don't have nothing compared to.
No. I want to get a good recap really quick. So you have 2 kids. How old are you now?
You guys are gonna make me date myself. I'm 41.
41. And so you waited till you were 30 to get sober. When you said you were living in Arizona, homeless and things, you still you're in Arizona by yourself, but you have kid or kids around.
Yeah, so
to encompass everything, because I think we kind of jumped to certain spots. So how can we wrangle
fill in
that
the
all
gaps?
up?
Yeah, fill the gaps.
Oh yeah, it's interesting. So
So when a mommy and daddy love each other.
they do, they're very supportive.
Yes.
I think so. When I told you I had a year break of sobriety when I was 21, and that's when I was on a program and I couldn't drink or whatnot for a year. And my son at the time, my mom ended up taking him, and she moved to Arizona. And I had just finished that program, and I said, well, if I go to Arizona, I can fix my life. Nobody's going to know me. Nobody's going to judge me. Maybe I can go to school. Maybe I can succeed
Fresh
in
start.
life.
Yep.
So
Fresh
you were
start.
here in Utah.
I was.
Okay.
And I showed up to Arizona. I got in school. I got a job. My son was out there. My mom was out there. And it wasn't long before I just dipped right back into that cycle. And I met my future ex-wife, and honestly, that relationship probably would have worked out had I not been so in that scene of drugs.
Was she clean and sober, or is that how you guys met?
100% clean and sober. Probably a really good woman, to be honest. And I was a tornado through her life. And she didn't know I told her I was, I had a past. She accepted that. I don't think she knew what that meant.
Because at the time you were clean.
Yeah.
When you guys met. So
yeah. And I slowly started dipping back into it. And it's the delusional brain that I have anyways, and I don't know about anyone else, but I thought, I started going down that path. I was like, if I can marry this girl, my life will get better. Yeah. It's going to be an outside job. I marry her. Yep. She's successful. She's going to school. She's going to be a teacher. Like all these things. If I marry her, somehow I'll have a successful job. Yep. I'll have an education. And when I asked her and she said yes, and you know, I was excited and I just started going down that rabbit hole and you know, eventually, you know, she started finding out and then obviously that didn't work out. And we had a girl. And when she was born, it was a few months later that, you know, she pretty much left. And I get it.
So how long were you guys together total? So just to keep things in line. So you moved down there, and your mom moved down there with your son. So you had already had a son. You meet a new girl. You guys start dating. Get married, have a daughter. How long was that time frame?
It's all kind of a blur, to be honest. But I would probably, dating to marriage to divorce, probably 2.5, 3 years.
Okay, a couple of years. So your baby was like newborn baby.
Yeah.
Okay. Like
you
really
know,
little.
Yeah, and I haven't seen her really to this day since then. I see pictures, you know, I send gifts, but her mom doesn't know me for who I am today.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a completely different person.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to know me back then, and I wouldn't want to hang out with me back then. And that's sad to say, and obviously I can't change it, but what I can do is just kind of be there for when I can be there. But, you know, with having a daughter and a son, you know, I hope that one day she'll reach out.
Mm.
So,
wow.
You got to do what you can with like what you're allowed kind of thing. It's like, I'm going to do everything that I can within like respectful boundaries. Cause you can't like force anyone to do anything.
No. And you know, the judge, I was fighting for custody cause I didn't want to lose it while loaded. And, I remember one of the court dates, I mean, I slept in. And I just couldn't get motivated and couldn't get moving. Didn't have anything to get me out of the house, you know, and I missed that. And the judge said, you know, if you ever want to see your daughter again, he's going to have to come through me, which I totally get if I would have kept down that path. But when I was sober and I reached out and, you know, she would let me talk and I said, you know, can we work something out? It was kind of like, if you want to work something out, go fight.
Yeah.
Go to the judge.
Yeah.
Just like he said, which I don't really believe. I think 2 adults can work that out. Mm-hmm. Based on the scenario, but she doesn't know who I am.
Yeah, maybe there's like a little bit of
resentment.
I don't even want to say resentment because you can't be like angry, you know, especially after that long. I feel like it's more so like maybe it's like she doesn't trust herself to trust again because.
Well, I was gonna say, like, do you think it's because, and this, I don't know if this is gonna be too personal, but because she didn't know that you were dealing with those things when you two were together, and then she found out during the marriage that you had fallen back. I mean, do you think there might be that fear?
I mean, I was.
What if?
It's like that first impressions thing, you know? Like, even though it's been so long and you're changed, all she knows, like you said, she doesn't know you now.
I mean, the things I did, the person that I was, you know, I don't know if I'd want me back in my life either.
Yeah.
You know, and that was a hard time and hard to accept, you know, and I've learned to kind of forgive myself and do what I can. And I've opened the lines of communication. I've done what I can from here. And the rest is kind of up to my God. It's just, and it's one of the hardest things, especially, you know, in recovery, watching these people come back and they get their kids back in their life and they get all these things that I'm like, oh, where's, you know, where's my turn? Wow. But so, and that's been, it's heartbreaking, but at the same time, I trust that it will happen when it's supposed to happen.
Yep.
Yeah. You just gotta live the life, you know, to the fullest, right? And not have to wait for that perfect moment, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think it will happen when it's supposed to.
Yeah.
I truly believe that. You know, she's going to want to know who her dad is. She suffers from the same thing I suffer. We have that connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the lowest point of your life? Is that the...
It's coming back to the lowest. There's a lot of low points, and I don't know. You know, I remember I was booked into the Pima County Jail for trespassing. The casino didn't want me to go back. I kept going back. I still have a problem gambling back then, but I remember getting released. And, you know, I mean, I had nobody. My dad was done with me. You know, my mom was done with me. All I had was these fake fair-weather friends that were, I mean, they were basically around for drugs and alcohol and whatever else it was. You know, I hate saying that word, but, I mean, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And, you know, I remember walking with nowhere to go. Not one single place to go. And that was pretty dark. And I remember, you know, I remember talking, and I believe I was talking to God that night about what I should do, where I should go. And even then, even with how dark that was, something happened and I just continued on. So I've had a lot of dark moments and they're gone quick. You know, when I finally was up here, like I'd already lost everything. Everything I had was basically a backpack with whatever I had in it. And when I came back up to Utah and I just picked it back up without even thinking. And
About how old were you by this time?
I was 29. I
29.
think I came back up here about 28, 29
So you'd been living in Arizona
for about 7 years.
Okay, I was gonna say from
Wow.
like 21 to about 28 or so.
Yeah.
Okay, and then through most of that time, you were still using, but you were like working and I guess like doing some things, like nothing at all for those about 7 years.
Well, when I got to Arizona, I got into school, and then I
Right.
started doing a call center, and I started working in a call center, and then drugs were on that floor.
Yeah.
Without even thinking, I was back doing that, so I lost the job. I actually went and got on disability because I was like, I'm going to use this to my advantage.
Free money, right?
Free money. So, and I skip over that part a lot because that's pretty powerful because I'm not on that anymore.
Yeah.
And I got on that. And I was going to get on disability housing, disability get a check. And it's funny because I was getting money every month and I was homeless.
When you were down in Arizona.
There, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, so you were on that. That was my next question. How did you have all this money to
Well, how much were you getting?
Yeah, if
if
you
it was
don't-
like, if we may ask.
$1,400.
a month?
Yeah.
What?
Wow.
And then
back
once-
then, that's
a lot of money.
That's a lot of money back
Yeah, I
then.
maxed. I was getting the max. I had 2 kids, so they were getting some. Once we got divorced, you know, the money was going to some was going to my kids, and then I was getting about 1,000.
Okay.
Because they get like 200 each or something like that. Which
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that much to live on, but I would get that check, and as soon as it hit, I mean, right before it hit, I'd be at the casino. And that's where I'd be, you know what I mean? Because I was like, that's not enough to list, or hey, I'll give you some money for rent when that time comes. I'll stay there for a month, and then I'll find somewhere else to stay and just leave them hanging.
Yeah.
Which is a horrible thing to do, but that's what I did, and that was like my goals. Like that was when I succeeded, when I was going to be on disability and free housing. Wow. And you know, coming up here and getting the program and started working, you know, I was able to get off that.
Yeah.
You know,
And how long were you on that when you came back to Utah?
only about a year.
Yeah, that's
Well,
wow. That's
probably
impressive.
2 years. They took it away, and then they said I owe them a bunch of money.
Uh-oh.
Because I should have been off of it before.
Oh yeah, they don't lend you money without not
Mm.
wanting
Something
anything back.
Yeah,
No,
I don't
Yeah.
because I'm not really educated on that side of it. I don't know how long.
Even like unemployment, a lot of people are like, I'll just get on unemployment. I'm like,
Well,
you don't just
Mm,
get on free things
Exactly.
from the government. Like,
gotcha.
Yeah, so I mean, I basically, because I 1099, they don't know what I'm making every month. So they didn't find out till the end of the year. And I was like, well, I'll just give you $50 a month for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty much paid off now.
Yeah. So you're not on it anymore.
No,
That's
I haven't
amazing.
been on it for 8 years.
Yeah.
So-
So with by the way, your story is very, very inspiring, and this is why I wanted you to come up here and talk about that. And what advice of the people that are listening right now? Cole, we have time, right?
yeah, we got plenty of time. One
Yeah.
thing I wanted to say before you segue into that is we kind of got to like the very end is, so you moved back to Utah after 7 years in Arizona. And then from that time to checking into a rehab center to like doing that, like what was that process like? About how long were you here in Utah? And then what was the initial like, all right, I got to do this, getting checked in, and then following through with it?
So my dad bought me a bunch of plane tickets, and every time I got a little bit of money in my hand and I'm on my way to the airport, or Dad, I don't have money to get to the airport, he would buy me a ticket, send me some money, and then of course I'd miss the flight. And eventually my dad actually showed up in Arizona in his car and drove me up here. And I was pretty much done. I really was convinced that I was done and I could do it on myself. And I really believed that I could just stop. And you know, some things happened about where I was living with him, and
It's like that thing. It's like quitting smoking is easy. I've done it 1,000 times.
yeah, and then you just start again. So, but you know, I somehow, I started selling my brother some pills because I wanted some money, and I love money, and I love selling, and where I was getting it, they had drugs, so I just started getting into it again all of a sudden, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm starting all over.
Yeah.
I had like a few days, and I was doing pills, and I hate pills. And I didn't check into rehab this time. I basically left my dad's house and said, I'll be back when I can be sober. And, you know, I showed up, I went out to Wendover, got rid of all my money and all my drugs and all that other stuff. And I showed up to a 12-step meeting, and that's where it started for me. You know, I didn't check myself into rehab this time. You know, I've been to rehab before, and I truly believe the people that go to rehab, you know, they get out, and if they don't change, most of the people, if they don't change what they're doing, they're just going to go right back.
Yeah.
And, you know, from that day forward, I attended a lot of meetings, and I started working on, you know, the 12 steps for me worked. I mean, some people hate them. Some people, the fellowship sometimes is crazy and the people obviously are sick. But for me, it was life-changing. You know, my life today is completely different, you know, and changing not only that, the lifestyle that I eat, the exercise, like I feel better today than I've ever felt in my entire life. And I'll tell you, when I miss breakfast,
you feel
angry.
it.
I already know.
Yeah.
He walks in to the gym, leg day, and he just looks like tired. I'm like, bro, you okay? I'm like, bro, I miss my breakfast or I miss a meal. I'm like, dude, you know we're doing legs today, right? He goes, yeah. And you struggled.
Yeah.
You struggle with
Which, real quick, I just want to make a quick comment on that. I know so many people, like even in my family, that don't eat breakfast. They don't eat anything until like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, how the hell do you function?
Yeah.
If I wake up, if I don't eat within like the first 30 minutes of waking up, my whole
Dude,
day,
I'm brain dead all day.
I'm screwed.
All day.
I can't function. Even if I eat like an hour after I wake up, I still don't feel good.
And I blame you guys for that because I didn't
You're welcome.
realize that.
You are
because I used to
welcome.
wake up and I'd go maybe grab a lunch and then I'd grab a big dinner and then I wouldn't feel any different because I wasn't feeling good. And then I started eating breakfast every morning and now I have to.
You get to that point too where like you didn't, you got like a Ziploc bag of Wheat Thins and you're busy and you eat it 15 minutes later and your body will be like, bro, what is going on? What is happening?
It's weird what happens when your body starts working the way it needs to and then you deprive it again.
Mm-hmm. When you were going through recovery, did they talk about, one thing that I learned a lot about was bad things happen when you're bored. So a lot of people that are in recovery go to the gym and they have a job and they have all these activities and they play softball and they do this and they do that because bad things happen when you get bored and there's nothing to do. So that's why what you said, like, oh, everybody that I know that's in recovery is super successful. Yeah. It's not because
they're just trying
they're successful. It's because if they don't do something, like you will, like you're more higher, more likely to relapse, like boredom or being alone or being like, by yourself and having nothing to do is what causes bad things. Because what do? You find something to do.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely stay busy. That's part of the reason the entertainment.
You're the busiest dude I've ever met.
Yeah.
You travel literally every other weekend.
And
you go to the prison or the jail.
I do take meetings in the jail every Wednesday, which is probably what I enjoy the most. Because it reminds me of where I go.
Yeah.
So every Wednesday, a couple of us go in there and we run 2 meetings into the jail. And, it's, to me, it's powerful because that's where I go and I can't ever forget that. And I think they need to hear it. Yeah. Will they ever show up to a meeting? Very rarely. Will I ever see them outside of that? Very rarely. But what I get from it.
It's powerful for you.
Yes.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Do you wish you had someone in your life like you are now back then? If someone like you came to your former self trying to have these meetings, just talking, doing these things, do you think that would have made a difference?
God, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be like cliche over here, because it's like, for me, if you asked me that question, I would think like, wouldn't you like to have someone like you? It's like me, yeah. Well, that question's kind of like a double negative or whatever, because I don't need someone like me because I got me now.
Yeah, and there's only one me.
Yeah. Well, the reason I ask is so Johan and I, we talk about all the time how when we were younger, we wish we had somebody like us in our life to push us and motivate us. Like my dad did. Johan and I grew up playing soccer together. We've known each other since we were like 13, 14. And my dad was definitely that, he still is to this day, that person that keeps us on track, tells us, he helped us when Johan was starting the business and he helped me when I was starting mine. And
your dad.
Yeah, my dad. And so we were thankful that we had him, but we also wish, not just that, but there was somebody like us telling us, hey, this is why it's important to be focusing on yourself. This is why it's important to work on yourself, go to the gym, eat healthy, not just to look good, and impress girls or whatever the hell it is, but just, and you've gone through your own transformation. You've gone through that identity shift, identity change. You're no longer that person you were before. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, I wish I would have had that.
Sometimes I think that's too easy though. Like if somebody just gave you all the shortcuts and things, like maybe like it was good that you didn't. Not necessarily
a shortcut, but like that mentor. Like I said, we had my dad as a mentor as kids, and we still do. But
you guys like listen to the way you're talking now. You place so much value on how important those things are. 100%. You might not have had that same intensity towards the value if you did have somebody.
And I talk about something like that. Now doing what we do and how dedicated and focused we are in the gym, eating the same things every day. We're working out. We're trying to improve our physiques, pro cards, whatever it is. I wish I had that mindset when I was younger because my dream was to be a professional soccer player. My grandfather played, my dad played, a lot of my dad's friends grew up in the the 80s playing in Italy, in Spain, in Serbia, and all that stuff. So it's like I had every connection, but I just never took advantage of it. And had we had somebody like this pushing us and teaching us the importance of focus and dedication and consistency,
I think which is why we do what we do now.
Yeah.
And then we went to Currents High School. We did the whole motivational speech with them, and they all said the same thing. They said, "I wish we had someone like you all the time. We wish we had someone like us."
That's exactly what we were just talking about. So I was asking Ryan, like,
Well, this segues perfectly into your wrap-up question, which is like, what kind of advice would you give? You want to reiterate that question?
So what are advice that you have for people that are, maybe not sober, right? Or maybe looking to get sober, or maybe someone that has your condition, that wants to truly change their life? Because obviously you did all of that. You know what I mean?
Well, as far as advice, as far as what you were asking earlier, I don't mentor. If I would have had it, I probably would have told them no. I wouldn't have followed that path because, and I truly believe everything that's put me through has made me the person today, which I actually love myself today, and that's taken me a long time to say that.
Yep.
And as far as advice for just give it a try. Reach out, ask questions. If you struggle with a disability, do what you can, and people will support you. Mm-hmm. I've had a lot of support from a lot of people that I know that see the videos and come up and say, "Dude, I've seen your video. That is so awesome."
Which videos? The one of you, or
the leg press?
Yeah.
That video, the extension video, the ones you've posted. I've had a lot of people say, "I saw that. It was very inspirational." And of course, I'm thinking, God, I'm only pushing this much weight, but like where I started, I know it's not. Yeah. And we all have a starting point, and if we just do it today and not worry about yesterday and not worry about tomorrow, it's what you do today.
Yep.
And I truly believe that, and they talk about that a lot in recovery. Focus on today.
Focus on today.
And that's all I can change.
Yeah.
And focusing on today, I keep changing, and I look back, and it's been 10 and a half years, and I'm eating healthy, and I have diabetics in my family. And my sister says, she's into the eating and diabetic stuff, and I don't really know, but I don't even pay attention to it. No. I don't pay attention to this. Like, it doesn't bother me. A lot of people ask, I'm like, "What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
You guys are the one that are all different."
Yeah. Well,
I'm normal.
Do you sometimes forget? Like,
I wouldn't say
not
I
like
forget,
but like people are like, "Oh, so how do you do it?" Like, "Oh shit, yeah, I have that." Well, this is how. Because you got to the point where it seems like you just ignore it. You're just going about your life.
I ignore it a lot. And I just, it's me, and it's made me who, I could just imagine if I had perfect legs, I'd be 100% perfect. So God's like, then we got to give him something wrung, right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly. We got to cool you down.
Yeah, cool me down a little bit. But like, it honestly,
he's also extraordinarily humble. Most humble guy.
It does make me who I am today.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is gold.
Yep.
Because, and I try to love everybody the same, and I try to be, the best person I can be, and I do. We all fall short.
Yeah.
But without this, I wouldn't be me, and I truly believe that.
Yep.
So
you just got to be you.
I love that.
It's got to be you. You can't compromise your life just because everybody tries to put you in that box, right?
Yeah.
You live your own life. You run your own world. Like, this is your world. I had the conversation with one of my clients the other day. So many times when people try to put you in that space of like, "Oh, you're this person, so you're better than all the others." No. Like, that's your insecurities, not mine. You put yourself there, not me, right? So, thank you so much for being on our podcast, bro. That's an amazing story, and I've learned a lot more today than I have for the last 2 years. And obviously, we never really had an hour conversations of just about your life and things like that. I try to be aware of, like, not to ask you personal questions, but today, with the exceptions, and you did amazing job explaining that. And I love hearing your story, and you're inspiring me. You inspired Nick.
And I appreciate you opening up about all of that, because I can't even imagine how difficult. Now it might be easier to talk about because you probably had this conversation a few times, but when going through it back then, I'm sure this was not a topic you'd ever want to discuss. So I appreciate the fact that you opened up, told us about it. You were vulnerable, and
even some of our clients that are in this fitness journey, it's the same thing. You just got to focus on one day at a time. The number one question that we always get as a coach: "Hey, coach, can I lose this many pounds next week? or next month or whatever. I'm like, dude, just focus on your day-to-day task. That's it.
Yeah,
That's
can
how
you
you
eat your
sit.
meals today? Can you go to
Just
the gym
today.
Well,
today?
that's why I
Can
tell my
you-
wife she gets so stressed out about things that she needs to get done, like tomorrow or what about next week. I'm like, that's a tomorrow issue.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Yeah,
about
my
it.
lady does that too. and then she gets
Focus
mad
on
that-
today.
that I don't
Focus
care.
on today. And so she always asks me, she's like, how do you just never worry about stuff? I'm like, well, 'cause that's a tomorrow issue. I'm not going to think about it right now. Like, yeah, I have stuff I got to get done at work, but
You can
I'm
plan.
at home
Yeah.
right now. So my ass is going to lay in bed. I'm going to watch my soccer highlights. I'm going to eat my food. I'm just not going to think about it. And then when tomorrow comes, I'm going to handle it then.
So thank you for being on, man. It's been amazing to have, and we're gonna continue to work together this year. Maybe maybe I'm stuck with you for life. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
You told me when I'm done, I'm going to get some calf muscles, right? I mean, I've been waiting, bro.
That's a big promise.
I mean,
that's a big
all
promise.
right, let's just say he didn't say that, but because I don't want people to think,
No, it's been amazing. Thank you, Coach Nick, to join
thanks for
us.
having me on.
And obviously, our next episode, we're gonna have someone very special as well, and it's gonna be awesome to have.
There's more than one special
No,
person.
listen. Every
Have you
episode
seen-
is
no, no,
special.
let me tell you.
I thought this was the most special because we're both on at the
I mean,
same time.
Have you seen?
Third, so
Yeah, it's the third.
that's it. Third strike, you're good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you
Yeah,
seen
love
any
that.
of his videos? I'm here with a very special guest today.
Yeah.
He likes to hype people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not
it's
going to
just
watch
you-
any of them but this one, so I feel like I'm the
Exactly.
most special.
Yeah.
I
exactly.
want to make you feel welcome and
But
special.
I do feel special, and I want to thank all you guys for being here. It's a cool journey.
It
Life
is.
is a trip.
It is. Thank you for keep educating people too. You know what I mean? It's a lot, and we always continue to educate. And I want you to do the same thing. And Colton's been a big part of it, so thank you to Colton as well. Thank you guys for watching and listening to our podcast. And I hope you guys learned something. If you guys have any questions, concerns, you can always DM me. You can always DM Colton.
Yeah,
or
we're
even
talking
Ryan.
about opening up like a little question segment
Yes.
in the future when there's a little more.
Yeah, so we're gonna have more episodes, but we're gonna have some Q&As that
Yeah.
we have, so we can talk about it on our podcast. So thank you guys for listening, and I'll talk to you guys later.